What drives a man to see love not as a bond, but as a battlefield where the woman is the prize, not for affection but for dominance? It's a question that scratches beneath the surface of romance, diving into the uncomfortable truths that few dare to confront. Behind charming smiles and carefully chosen words, there are men who don't fall in love, they calculate, assess, and select. They aren't searching for connection, they're hunting value. And who better to guide us into this murky world of manipulation and psychological warfare than Niccolò Machiavelli, the man whose name has become synonymous with cold-blooded strategy. In this story, we explore how high-value women are chosen not through love, but through ruthless filters shaped by Machiavellian logic, psychological manipulation, and a worldview where emotion is weakness ... and control everything. Before diving into the minds of modern men who apply these tactics, we need to understand the roots of this behavior, and that leads us straight to Renaissance Italy, a land of blood, betrayal, and brilliance where Machiavelli was born. Who was Machiavelli? Niccolò Machiavelli wasn't a warrior. He wasn't royalty. He wasn't even particularly powerful in his time, but he had something far more dangerous, a mind forged in chaos, sharpened by observation, and fearless in revealing the darkest truths of human nature. Born in 1469 in Florence, Machiavelli came of age during a period of political turmoil. Italy was not a unified nation, it was a chessboard of warring city-states, each ruled by cunning lords and treacherous alliances. Machiavelli watched these rulers closely. He saw how power was taken, held, and lost not by kindness, but by deception, manipulation, and sheer psychological domination. And in 1513, he distilled all his knowledge into a book that would shake the world, The Prince. It was not a guide on how to be loved. It was a brutal, unapologetic manifesto on how to be feared, respected, and obeyed. But here's the twist. While The Prince isn't about political rule, its principles bleed into personal relationships. In fact, for men who think like Machiavelli, choosing a woman is not about romance, it's about strategy. It's about securing powerful alliances, minimizing emotional risks, and maximizing leverage. So what does this look like in practice? Let's decode it. Machiavellian men don't fall for women. They assess them, much like a ruler would assess potential allies. Every trait, every behavior, every reaction is scrutinized not through a lens of affection, but through one of utility. Here are the filters such a man uses consciously or unconsciously to identify a high-value woman. 1. Emotional control. The first test is subtle but deadly. Can she control her emotions? Machiavellian men equate emotional unpredictability with weakness. If a woman is too reactive, too impulsive, she is seen as a liability, not a partner. Why? Because such men believe that control is the cornerstone of dominance. A woman who cannot govern herself will inevitably disrupt his strategy, create emotional chaos, and threaten his ability to operate efficiently. 2. Social perception. Next comes social intelligence. High-value women, to these men, are not just attractive, they are perceived as desirable by others. This perception becomes a weapon. Being with a socially admired woman elevates his status, much like a prince marrying into a noble house. Here, we see a direct connection to Machiavelli's teachings. Appearance matters more than reality. If the public believes she is elite, then she is useful. 3. Loyalty under pressure. The third filter is perhaps the most sinister. How does she behave under pressure, betrayal, or suspicion? The Machiavellian male might even create scenarios to test this: subtle lies, withheld information, or orchestrated jealousy to see if she cracks. Just as rulers test loyalty through war, these men test women through psychological games. If she remains stable, loyal, and grounded even in the face of engineered chaos, she passes. 4. Ambition and alignment. Another layer is alignment of goals, but not romantic dreams. Strategic alignment. Is she ambitious? Can her ambitions merge with his, or will she eventually become a rival? Machiavellian men admire ambition, but only when it can be controlled or aligned. A high-value woman is not docile, she is formidable, but her goals complement it. 5. Reputation management. Finally, he examines her ability to manage image. Machiavelli wrote that it's better to appear virtuous than to be virtuous. So, The woman he selects must understand discretion, timing, and public behavior. She must know when to smile, when to remain silent, and when to play the part society expects. This is not love, it's auditioning for a role in his empire. And if she passes these tests, she is no longer just a partner. She is a tactical asset. But where does this cold, strategic mindset come from? Let's go back to Machiavelli's own life to understand how Machiavellian tactics shaped modern male behavior in relationships. We must step back and observe the brutal world Machiavelli grew up in. The Italy of the late 15th century was a cauldron of betrayal. Cities like Florence, Venice, and Milan weren't governed with ideals, they were ruled by fear. Power changed hands through assassinations, betrayals, and conspiracy. Popes launched wars, families poisoned rivals. Love was rarely pure, it was political. Machiavelli, working in Florence's chancery, was not just a spectator, he was a strategic observer. He studied kings and princes like one would study animals in the wild, and he concluded one devastating truth: men are driven by fear or love. But when one cannot have both, it is safer to be feared. This same mindset is echoed by modern men who study psychology not for healing but for control. They analyze women's behavior like Machiavelli analyzed kings, looking for weakness, inconsistency, and leverage. Let's examine a key case from history that mirrors this modern ruthlessness. Cesare Borgia, the ultimate Machiavellian in The Prince. Machiavelli praised Cesare Borgia as the ideal ruler not because of kindness, but because of how ruthlessly he secured power. Cesare was charming, elegant, and devastatingly intelligent, but behind his smile was a man who executed his allies to send a message. He used affection to draw people in, only to strike when they were most vulnerable. He seduced, he manipulated, and he planned every move as if playing chess. For Cesare, women weren't lovers, they were leverage used to gain land, forge alliances, and weaken enemies. Many modern high-value men unknowingly mimic Cesar's patterns. They use charm not to connect, but to conquer. They reward obedience with affection, but punish defiance with cold detachment. They treat romance not as a journey but as a campaign. And just like Borgia, once they achieve what they want, the mask drops. But how do they keep women bound to them, even after revealing their true colors? To maintain control, Machiavellian men employ psychological weapons far beyond what most people can see. One of the most powerful, trauma bonding. This technique, though ancient in form, is increasingly present in modern toxic relationships. Here's how it works. The Machiavellian man alternates between intense affection and emotional withdrawal. He showers his target with love, compliments, and grand gestures only to vanish or become distant without explanation. This creates confusion. The woman begins to blame herself. What did she do wrong? Why did his behavior change? The confusion deepens the bond. She begins to chase the high of his affection, much like a gambler chasing a winning streak. The more inconsistent he becomes, the harder she works to win him back. And here's the twisted part: the more she invests emotionally, the more he tightens control. Isolation as a weapon. In classic Machiavellian style, many of these men isolate their partners not by force, but through manipulation. They plant seeds of doubt about friends. I don't think she really respects you. Why do you always need to be around your family? They subtly encourage dependence, framing themselves as the only one who truly understands. Over time, the woman's social circle shrinks, and with it, her ability to think clearly or seek help. Gaslighting and redefining reality. Another tool, gaslighting. This tactic involves deliberately denying reality, twisting facts, and making the victim question their memory or sanity. When confronted, the Machiavellian man responds with, "You're too sensitive. You always overreact. That's not what happened." Eventually, the woman may begin to doubt her own judgment, making her easier to control. These tactics aren't coincidental. They're deliberate psychological operation, rooted in the same principles Machiavelli taught: win through fear, divide to conquer, and control perception. But how does the story end for women caught in this web? There are only two possible outcomes in these relationships. The woman breaks free, forever altered, often traumatized. She surrenders entirely, becoming a shadow of herself, bound by invisible chains. Those who escape often carry the scars for life. They struggle to trust, they question their worth. Many fall into repeated patterns, drawn to similar personalities who promise control dressed as confidence. But those who remain, they become part of the machinery. These women often serve to validate the Machiavellian man's worldview. She stayed. That means I was right. Love is weakness. Power is everything. In his mind, her loyalty is proof that domination works, that kindness is optional, that value is chosen, not shared. This echoes the fate of many women throughout history, used for power, discarded when no longer useful. But unlike ancient times, today's battlefield is psychological. So, what can we learn from this? Let's bring the lens back to us. In the age of podcasts, dating coaches, and alpha male culture, Machiavellian logic is repackaged as dating advice. Men are taught to never show emotion, keep women in uncertainty, punish bad behavior with silence, reward submission with attention, view relationships, transactions. Many don't even realize the roots of these ideas trace back to Machiavelli. It's not love, it's war strategy disguised as seduction. And social media, it amplifies the illusion. We celebrate status, control, and power while vulnerability is mocked. It begs the question, are we creating a generation that no longer knows how to love, only how to dominate? This is the true danger of Machiavellian psychology when left unchecked. But it also gives us a choice. How can women and society identify a Machiavellian operator before it's too late? Here are the patterns. Charm too soon. Fast emotional intimacy is a red flag. Subtle control. Criticism masked as care. Inconsistent affection. Hot one moment, cold the next. Punishment cycles. Silence. Jealousy games. Emotional withdrawal. Perception management. Obsessed with appearances, not substance. And the most telling sign, the relationship feels like a test you're always failing. This feeling is not accidental, it's engineered. Much like Machiavelli taught rulers to keep their people fearful but loyal, these men keep their partners confused but attached. But once you see the game, you can stop playing. The irony of Machiavellian love is this: the man may win control, but he loses connection. Over time, the mask becomes permanent. The calculated charm, the emotional distance, it creates a life of shallow victories and deep loneliness. Yes, he may attract admiration, but admiration without intimacy is hollow. He may feel powerful, but that power isolates him. And eventually, the empire he built becomes a prison of his own making. This is what Machiavelli never mentioned in The Prince. The cost of using others as pawns is that you forget how to be human. So the final victim isn't just the woman, it's the man himself. True power doesn't come from domination. It comes from integration, from understanding both your strength and your vulnerability. The modern man must ask, am I building connection or control? Do I value this person or do I value their usefulness? Am I choosing love or strategy? It's not weakness to love deeply. It's not naive to be sincere. In fact, it's the boldest rebellion against a Machiavellian world. And for those who've been caught in this cycle, men or women, healing begins with one realization: you are not a pawn. You are not a strategy. You are not an asset. You are a person, and you deserve a connection, not built on fear, but on truth. Machiavelli taught us how to gain power, but he never taught us how to keep love. Perhaps he didn't believe in it, or perhaps he thought love was too unpredictable, too chaotic, too human. But we are not rulers in a war-torn kingdom. We are humans, longing to be seen, heard, and understood. So the next time someone treats you like a test, a trophy, or a pawn, remember, even kings fall, and true value cannot be measured, it must be felt. Reflect on this. Are we still being ruled by princes who've traded their crowns for charm, and their hearts for tactics? Thank you for watching this video. We ask that you subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also, activate the notification bell to be alerted about our future posts. See you in the next video.